What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since '03 and eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. In today's video, we will be doing a season preview for new Piston Tobias Harris. On this channel, we have and will continue to do season previews for all players on the Pistons roster. We started with the youngest, we're working our way up to the oldest. We only have two of them left. That's Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. And today we will be going over Tobias Harris. In these videos, we always go over where the player was last season and what they did, 3 strengths to expect from the player in the upcoming year, 1 weakness to expect, a swing skill, and then at the end of the video, we always predict where they will be at in the rotation. So we'll hop straight into it, and we'll talk briefly about Tobias Harris's previous season. Obviously, he was not with the Detroit Pistons last year. He was on the Philadelphia 76ers, where he has spent the last 5.5 years. Last year, Tobias Harris averaged 17 points per game to go along with 6.5 boards and 3 assists. He shot 49% from the floor and 35% from the three-point line. He appeared in 70 games, started all of them, and averaged 34 minutes per night. Overall, it was a really good regular season for Tobias Harris, in my opinion. I know a lot of 76ers fans were pretty disappointed with his performance in the playoffs. 76ers fans also were not big fans of the contract he was on. That doesn't really concern us as Pistons fans. We will cross those bridges when we get there. The contract situation, it's a 2-year deal Tobias is here for. So those things do not concern us whatsoever. Tobias Harris, in my opinion, had a relatively productive regular season for the 76ers last year, and that is what matters to us. So 3 strengths to expect from Tobias Harris this upcoming year. The first one is going to be his scoring. Tobias Harris is a tried and true NBA 3-level scorer. The dude can score the ball from anywhere on the basketball floor. He can score at the rim. He can score in the mid-range. He can create his own shots in the mid-range. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's not exactly a marksman like Peja Stojakovic or something, but the dude can definitely shoot the 3. He's a very, very good scorer. I know that seems pretty redundant because Tobias Harris has been in the league for long enough, especially considering that he was in Detroit a handful of years ago. Most of you guys all know Tobias Harris is a great scorer. He's not Kevin Durant. He's not the guy you're going to give the ball to and ask to go get 30 points per game. But as a secondary, complementary scoring option, he is definitely one of the better in the NBA. He can score the ball at 3 levels and do it efficiently. Not much more to say there on that front. So the second strength I want to talk about for Tobias Harris is going to be his consistency. Last year, Tobias Harris played in 70 games, and in 60 out of those 70 games, he scored more than 10 points in those matches. So realistically, what that means is Tobias Harris at this point in his career doesn't disappear from games all that often. On his worst nights, he's going to get you 10, 12 points. He's very, very dependable in that aspect, especially compared to many of the younger players that we have had on our roster over the past couple of years, where on a night-to-night basis, you really don't know what you're going to get out of him. Tobias Harris, you can count on to go get those 15 points per game every single night. If you told me that that number is a 20-point number for the Pistons, considering that he's going to be a second scorer instead of a third scorer like he was in Philadelphia, I would believe you. I think that Tobias Harris is a very consistent scorer. There's not that many games where he completely doesn't show up. Ironically enough, I know in the playoffs that happened quite a bit for Tobias Harris this previous season, but that's a very small sample size compared to the rest of his NBA career, which has been over 10 years. At this point, say over the last 3 or 4 years, Tobias Harris is the type of dude that you can depend on to show up every single night, play in almost every single game. The dude has played over 70 games for the last 3 seasons, and he will do exactly what you expect him to do in most cases. Number 3 for a strength is going to be almost tied to that, and it's going to be his veteran leadership. The Detroit Pistons have had some veterans in the locker room over the past couple of years. Maybe Bojan Bogdanovic comes to mind, or Alex Burks, but realistically, I think that Tobias Harris is better than them at this stage in his career, and I also think that he is going to be able to connect with the young players on this team and show them exactly what it means to be a true professional in the NBA, because I think Tobias Harris has that down to a T. Over the course of Tobias Harris's 10-plus year NBA career, I have heard nothing about but good things about him off the floor. Everybody seems to think that he's a great dude off the floor, and the only people I've ever heard talk bad about Tobias Harris are 76ers fans that were upset with his playoff performance and contract situation, and once again, those things don't apply to us. So I think that his veteran leadership, his scoring, and consistency will all be very welcomed additions to this team. One weakness to expect this upcoming season is going to be his defense. Now, Tobias Harris isn't exactly the worst defender in the world, but he's not the best defender in the world either. He does have the size to guard a few different positions. He can take on most secondary forwards in today's NBA. I would prefer not to see him have to guard the best forwards on the other teams like LeBron or Jason Tatum or players like that. I think that at this point in his career, and realistically at any point in his career, he's not the man for that job. But that's not exactly to say he's like some sort of absolute cone on defense either. He's just not a walk down top tier perimeter or rim defender. He's more of a complementary defender that you are just really hoping to not get absolutely smoked, which doesn't happen all too often. But that was the best thing I could come up for a weakness for him, because at this point in Tobias's career, Tobias very much knows his role, knows his game, and sticks to that almost every night. So for a swing skill for Tobias Harris, this is going to be the first one in the series where I say there is none. When you order a Tobias Harris, you get a Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris going into this season will be 31, 32 years old. There's not a ceiling on his game. I think that Tobias Harris is going to be exactly what we all expect him to be for this team. We talked about most of it already in this video. A complementary scorer, a veteran leader. I don't think that there's any situation where Tobias Harris somehow burns a fire that we've never seen before in his 10-plus year career, where he turns into a 25 point per game type of guy with a crazy high ceiling that no one's ever expected. And I also don't see a situation where there's some bottomed out floor where Tobias Harris at 31 years old just completely falls off of a cliff and becomes absolutely unplayable. There's really no swing skill here for this one, guys. I probably should have just took this part out of the video, but I've talked about a swing skill for every other player in this series. I don't think Tobias Harris has one. Like I said, when you order a Tobias Harris, you get a Tobias Harris. So to talk about where he will be at in the rotation, I made my video earlier this summer predicting the Pistons starting lineup. I had him as the starting power forward on this team. Not too many people disagreed with that whatsoever. There might have been one or two or three maybe comments talking about, oh, we still need to play Stewart at the 4, or I don't even really think that that happened too much. I think everyone's kind of came to terms with the fact that with the way that this team is built out and the roster looks currently, he is our starting power forward. That is exactly what he'll be. He'll probably play 33 minutes per night. That's about what he's played for the last 10 years in the NBA. So I'm assuming that's exactly where that's going to be. Starting power forward, 33 minutes per night. Book it. That sounds like a plan to me. Let me know what you guys think. I know that it's been a while since Tobias has been signed on to the Pistons, but I'm starting to get really excited to see him back in Detroit. Curious to see what y'all think. We'll talk soon.